Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I am your host, Lori Palau, and I am super excited that you are joining me today. Before we get into today's guest, which is going to be super exciting for you because we're going to be talking all about products, and I know how much you guys love products. I just wanted to share some updates for you on what's going on here. So, some exciting news, which some of you may or may not know, is we've officially launched our YouTube channel. Um, I still prefer audio podcasting over video. However, I've had a lot of requests for people to have our show accessible on YouTube. And that was one of our things on our to-do list for 2021. And so your wish is our command. So if you are a YouTube person, or if you have somebody that doesn't want to listen to our show and would rather watch us, feel free to head on over to YouTube and you can find us right there. There's also a link on our website. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, I know a lot of people are really kind of, when they're looking at their goals and their resolutions for 2021, especially for entrepreneurs, kind of business strategy seems to be something that I hear a lot as a recurring theme. And I know we have a lot of listeners that are either interested in the professional organizing industry, or maybe you are a professional organizer, or maybe you have kind of a little bit of a side hustle, but trying to really figure out what your next step is. I encourage you to check out our SBO partner program. It's our community of other professional organizers. There's group coaching, there's one-on-one mentorship with me, tons of assets and resources and Zoom calls. So anybody that's interested in taking, a hobby or, an interest and make that a profession, we would love to connect up with you. So definitely shoot us an email over at info@Simply Be Organized. And the last thing that I want to mention is I am working on the finishing touches of our Enneagram and Clutter course, which is going to be connecting the dots between clutter and the Enneagram. It's all about personality. If you've listened to our show before, we did a whole series on the Enneagram. And if this is something that you are interested in, definitely you're going to want to check that out. So we are doing signups. There's a sign up on our website. So if you just go to simplybeorganized.com and you just will see Enneagram and Clutter, just click that and you will be notified as soon as that course goes live. All righty, folks. So you guys say products, 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 and we want to deliver. So I recently, actually, right before the end of the year, got introduced to this amazing company called 1Thrive. And if you listen to our advertisements and don't fast forward through them, you may actually already be familiar with them because I have been endorsing them for the past month. They're an amazing company. They make command centers, which we're going to talk all about command centers. And I just love everything about them. I love the look. I love the functionality. And most importantly for me, I love the founders and the story behind it. So I invited two of the founders to come out, kind of share their story, tell us a little bit about how they came up with the concept, what their goal is, and how they are helping people, especially while we are at home, really live simply. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring out to the show two of the founders of 1Thrive, Mayra Kavan and Brett Stern. Welcome, both of you, to the show.
Thank you. We are so excited to be here. It is really awesome. We have been doing a lot with the professional organizing community, so this is great.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited. So, Brett, why don't you kind of kick it off and just give our listeners a little bit of background about you, who you are, what you've done, and kind of what brought you into this space, and then we'll pass the mic over to Mayra.
Sure. So I actually come from an apparel background, a family business that's been around for 65 years. Historically, we've sold people like J.C. Penney's and Kohl's and Sears. As many of your listeners and many people know, companies like Sears and J.C. Penney's are struggling out there. So about 5 years ago, we have a warehouse in South Florida, and we rented some of our space to a home decor company called Stratton Home Decor. They came in. They have a subscription box, and they sell their wall decor to department stores across the country. We became very friendly with them, and about 2 years ago, we said, "Hey, let's start a third company together." We weren't sure what it was going to be. Originally, we thought maybe it was going to have some apparel and some home decor. We knew we wanted it to be e-commerce and direct to consumer. So our first task was to hire somebody, and we hired Mayra, who came on, and she was originally our brand manager, and she helped us do the research and to figure out what exactly we wanted to do. So probably we spent about 3, 4, 5 months, all of us together, doing research on Pinterest and on Etsy. And what we found was people were putting up command centers in their house, and they were super functional. They did bullet journaling, everything about it made their lives better, but they weren't that pretty. It would be a whiteboard patchwork of different stuff. And so our concept was to come up with a command center that was both fashionable, functional, easy to exchange parts out of it, and really Myra's taken it from there and built it into something that has just been amazing. And I can she is much better to talk about the product than I am, but we are all four of us who are the founders are entrepreneurs and so excited to be in this space. So Myra, why don't you take it from there?
Sure. Thanks, Brett, and thanks, Lori. I'm really excited to be here. Yeah, as Brett was saying, the story was actually perfect timing for me personally and professionally because my background is design. I was in corporate America for quite some time, and then I had a daughter, and I was traveling a great deal, and I knew I needed to make a lifestyle change so I could be more present. And in doing that, after a decade at one company, I decided to take some yoga teaching classes, and I was trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. And in that um, teaching training, I was really introduced to Wayne Dyer and setting affirmations and how to manifest things. And it turned into a whole idea behind a candle collection. So I launched my business, and I was great. It was awesome. But after quite some time, just being by myself as an entrepreneur, I was pretty fried. I was fortunate enough to be able to sell the company. And by the time I met with Brett and Mike and Evan, I was at a point where I was like, listen, I just want a really simple job. I just want to do some product design. And they were all like, yeah, no, we think you want to do something more than that. So I was like, well, I really liked everybody. And we started, and it was basically, I spent months, they gave me the opportunity just to really dive into trends that were happening in, around organization and what was already really successful with their prospective companies with home decor and apparel. And after digging into all of that, I had I stumbled upon in Pinterest this whole concept of wall organization. And then it was this coined phrase, which I had never really seen before, which was command center. So that was part of my presentation back to them. And everybody in the room was like, that's it, command centers. So then we started to really, as Brett said, really started diving into the market and say what's out there for it right now. And I realized that I was already doing that for many, many years. Working out of the home, I was getting whiteboards and corkboard and trying to piece together my own type of command center. And we just found everything in the marketplace. We got samples, and it was expensive, heavy, hard to install, not very flexible, not cool looking. Couldn't really like put it anywhere else but in an office space. And then we just really, came around, and you see it right behind me,
So tell
and
our
developed the
list.
1Thrive.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So I'm looking at you on video, obviously, and I'm looking at the beautiful aesthetic. And I know Brett has one behind him in his office, and the basic design is similar in both, but yet they each have different components. And Brett's is, more darker and masculine, and yours is white and cleaner. And I love that. So for people that are listening, can you speak to a little bit about the actual components? And obviously we'll have links to the website in our show notes, and we'll post, pictures. Anybody that follows us on social media has been seeing pictures of your products, but just talk a little bit about kind of some of the core concepts and differences in your product versus, some other things that you were seeing on the market.
Okay. So when we started to put it together, we knew that it needed to have, first of all, for easy installation. The very first experience of when you receive a product, it needed to have easy installation. So it starts with a base, and the base has basically two screws to put it onto the wall with anchors. You have two additional screws on the bottom if you want added support, but they're not necessary. And that's it. So it starts with that. Then on the top of the base is a magnetic header that you can actually write on. It is with a technology that we call 1Thrive. And what it is, it's not your typical dry erase board. It's not your typical chalk experience either. You use our markers, which are really vibrant, smudge free, non-toxic, and they have two tips on them so you can flip them and you can write on there and personalize it, which we found to be a very big item that people wanted to do, was to actually personalize their system. Then it's completely flexible. So you have different components that you could basically customize exactly what you need. If you need a monthly calendar, there's a component that has a monthly calendar, weekly calendars, and you can use them for menu planning, for workouts, whatever it is that you want to manage on there. There's different storage. And right now we have two surfaces for the 1Thrive, which is black and white. And it just takes our markers to write on both of them. You don't need separate markers. If you go against it and brush up against it, it won't come off. And it's easy to wipe off with a microfiber and a little Windex. And that's it. So the concept was really very simple to make it beautiful in different finishes: white, gold, silver, black. You can make it look like modern farmhouse, boho, or, like the really masculine version that Brett has in his office, which is a new system that we're launching called the Grayson. So that's a little sneak peek for everybody. And then you have hooks, which everyone lately is using for masks. We see that a lot. And so it's great. And really, I think what makes it really completely different is that you can put it in any room in the house. It's not limited to the office. It looks fantastic in the kitchen. It can even look beautiful in a bedroom. By an entry, the front door entry is a very popular place. And the whole idea behind it was, how do we carve away more time for families and people to manage their life, and all in one place in one location, and to have more time for things that matter. So it goes beyond just using technology, using your phone, using a planner. People can't really see what's going on in individual phones. You can share calendars, but when you actually put it up on a wall, then everybody sees that information. It's shared, and it's more, um, trying to think of the word.
No, well, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean, we talk about this a lot, and again, I appreciate you walking through this whole thing because it's so helpful, and especially as I'm watching it, like I'm watching you, point to the different components. And what I want people to understand, because I don't want this episode to sound just like one big, advertisement, but it's really about understanding how we can be more efficient with our time. And for a lot of people, especially, and and everyone who knows that's listening to me, like I'm a digital junkie. Like I always say, if my house on fire, I'm probably grabbing the phone before the kids. Okay. Because I've like, they have legs and can fend for themselves. So I rely heavily on digital. However, I still have whiteboards. I have a family whiteboard and I have one in my office with a calendar, because there's something about having that visual up in front of you. And for people, and especially as a mom who had a kid that needed that visual learning, to be able to see it up there allows you a different level of processing than when something's just retrievable in your phone. So I love it. And what I also love, and for any of our kind of product junkies out there that are familiar with either organized living or the alpha system, that are like that track and rail where you can adjust and move things, whether it's shelves or convert something from a hanging to a shelf or folding or whatever. That's what a little bit, but in obviously in a much more decor fashion, the flexibility of being able to say, well, I don't really want a chalkboard here. I would like another inbox, or I really could use another calendar, or I could use another list here. You can switch out components based on your needs. So even so your base is always the same, but you could have it grow as your needs grow and change. And I love that flexibility with your system. Yeah, Brett.
One thing I was going to say too is, Myra and I did a lot of research too, and it's one of the things you were saying. It's scientifically proven that if you use more than one sense to do something, so if you're writing something down and you're visually looking at it, you're much more easily, the goals are attainable, and the things that you're trying to do soak into you much better. And that was definitely something we thought about. And in this day and age, when everything is so digital, this was like a real analog thing. It's going, and we were purposefully doing that, thinking that we need people to be looking at things and writing things down. And as Myra was saying too, it's something that you can share with your kids. You can do it together with them. So it's all these different things. Goal setting, these are all things that were important to us that we had talked about when we were putting this together.
And honestly, the timing, I think, is couldn't be better, in the sense of our homes. I've been working as a professional organizer. Like, I've been coining the phrase command center for years. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the person that like discovered it, but I've been using that phrase. But now more than ever, as our homes are school and work and meal planning and everything, having that, having something that can help you separate that and saying, okay, this is what I have to do here and when and for what purpose, allows you to have a break in your, you know, am I wearing my mom hat, my teacher hat, my work hat? What am I doing? Myra, I think you were going to say something.
Well, you're just, I cannot agree with you more. We found in our research that a lot of stuff falls on one parent in the household, right? And so the fact that you can share the information, and you're right in terms of what just been experiencing during COVID, is I had the 1Thrive up in my family kitchen, and it was for a lot of uses of menu planning, putting bills away. But then after COVID, it transformed into I needed to manage some of my daughter's school stuff. And then it turned into there was just not enough room. And then we gave her her own 1Thrive command center. And it taught her accountability. It gave her independence. She's 11 years old, and that was so powerful, I think, for her as well, because it gave her so much confidence during a time that things were out of control. It gave her a sense of control. And I think that that is really powerful when you have that within the family, when you have open communication, when everybody has especially now, different places where they're doing remote learning and they're on Zoom calls all day long. And a lot of times we were just like, okay, I would check in every once in a while on her, but she was on her own to figure things out. And I saw her writing, the things that she needed to do that week. I saw her writing links to things and printing things out and putting it up there. So when she had her own Thrive Center, and then we had the family one. Then the family one became something different, where we would like talk about, okay, what are some fun family things we could do right now? And we had a board that was our bucket list, and everybody would write on it, would go up and contribute something. Um, Self care time, just for time for my husband to go fishing, or for me just to have a walk and have some time by myself. And even my 11-year-old, even though we were, it's important to manage all of that. So it was interesting to see that sense of independence it gave a child and of confidence. And it was really exciting to see that.
I love it. I want to comment on that, but we're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back. We're just going to kind of pick up on that because I definitely wanted to just talk about that whole ownership empowerment with kids. So sit tight. We'll be right back. Okay, so Myra, you were just commenting on how by giving your daughter who's 11 her own, ownership over her own command center, it allowed her to have the accountability. And I think it also allows people, when you're writing stuff down, it's the first step in reclaiming control over things. And I tell people, adults, all the time when they're stressed about, whether it's clutter in their closet or just overwhelmed with time or whatever it is, I say, write it. Let's just write it down. Let's brain dump it. You
Yeah.
got to brain dump it because then once you can do that, it allows you to then develop some sort of an action plan. And when all of these things are in your head, and it's specifically with school, and I'd love for you to kind of speak to this because, my listeners know I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old, and my 17-year-old really struggled for a long time with school, and she has ADD and procedural processing. She was on our show talking candidly about it. But just being able to figure out the modality that worked for her was huge. And then to be able to kind of get that down so she could say, okay, these are deadlines, these are things that I have to do, really helped her. And a planner in her case didn't work like that. It just wasn't, it didn't like connect the dots for her. But when she could see it listed out, that was a huge game changer. So maybe you could speak a little bit about, either one of you, about the thought process that went into the different components. I mean, obviously calendar is a calendar, but like really kind of where are you thinking the different parts that, and you spoke to this a little bit, that the components, how they can be used.
So just to speak in terms, and it leads into the design of the components. Again, going back to my story with my daughter, she has dyslexia. So a system was very important for her. And I could not agree with you more in terms of just getting that system down and what will work for her. Because every child is different, every human being is different in terms of how they retain things and what their system that would work for them. So it came a point where literally she was at school, had already started the online for a few weeks before I really dove in to understand the process that she was going through all by herself. And it was 3 different websites. It was using books online versus hard books. And I was like, we need to come up with a system. So we had the 1Thrive. We did have a planner. She does use a planner in conjunction with the 1Thrive. And then, of course, she has her technology that she has to use every day. So we came up with a system together, again, empowering her and making her share with me like what is important to her, what works for her, and then giving her new tools. So long story short, we she really started to give me ideas that I kept bringing back into R&D in terms of what kids need. So we actually started looking at younger kids, and younger kids are all about the routines, right? If you remember, you probably had this, Lori, at some point, a morning routine and an evening routine, right? Brush your teeth, make your bed, get dressed. And we saw that there's an opportunity to actually create a system that is for that uh, age of child, that routines are very important. So all of this starts very, very early. in terms of finding out what is the system, creating good habits, and creating good routines.
I love it. And it's so funny because one of the other things that one of the other like little catchphrases that I've used, and now again, now that my kids are older, I don't talk about it as often in my daily, life, but we had what I called a homework hub when my kids were younger because they would constantly be like, where's my homework? Where's my book? Where's my folder? Oh, I only have, music twice a week. So I don't bring this to school every day. Now, obviously, everything's crazy with school and so much of it is digital and remote right now. But back in the day when my kids were there, all the time, I didn't want to have to constantly be um, helping them or yelling at them or watching them chase around the house looking for their stuff. And so we had I'm a big fan of vertical storage. I'm a big fan of it because, not everybody has counters or, flat surfaces that they can use, but usually somebody can steal a wall. They could steal it behind a door, they could steal it, wherever and you don't need a big space. And so your narrow vertical storage, which I think is only like 16 inches wide. I had this, it was a bunch of series of different inboxes, if you will, like your inboxes. And that's where they would store their folders, their homework, if they were working on a project, anything. So it wasn't just like on my coffee table or just floating randomly around. And whenever they would come to me and say, where's my so and so? I would say, did you check your homework hub? And it was great. So I'm like looking at this, in addition to it being, a command center for the house for, people's activities and meal planning and all the other things, just to have a central place where kids could keep their stuff, especially now that they are, having to, keep so much of it. They're not going into school either at all or as often.
Completely.
One,
And just one thing to add to that is that I think if you can also make it fun and inspiring is
Totally.
huge.
Totally.
So if you take it beyond the storage and the managing of the schedules and you have fun markers and fun magnets, which we have, then they really get into it. Ava takes her system down and she will write on it for the new month. She gets everything set up for the week and she puts pictures up. And she also, we have a section for her dreams. So it's like a vision board for her. And she puts things up on what, when we can travel again and we can do things again. And she has those pictures up. So the fact that you can also make it like super, and I love, by the way, the name Homework Hub.
You can, that's feel
That's a
free.
great name. I love
You can
that.
credit me with it, but if you don't like it, but go ahead. Feel free to use it. Go ahead.
I love it. It's a great, it's definitely a great name, but it's fun to see how the kids personalize it and how they have fun with it and what's important to them. Uh, because sometimes, and I could so relate in terms of you don't want to be nagging at them and the screaming and all of that, and they don't want that either. So the fact that there's a system that you say, sorry, there's like a
It's all good.
okay. um, the fact that there is a system in place that they are in charge of and it's theirs and they have complete independence with it is very helpful.
Awesome. Brett, I think you were going to say something.
yeah, I would say, adding on to what Myra said too, is the goal is we're teaching people habits throughout life, right? So slowing down and writing things down and setting your goals and looking at what's in front of you and what you have to accomplish for the week, for the month, are all things that all of us can benefit from. But teaching kids at a young age to be able to do that is a great thing that's only going to help them through life. And I know that things like meal planning, where you have, it's like, what are we going to do this week? When you write it down and you set it up, it's something that you can see and you can really accomplish. So that was something that we definitely thought through, was how do we help people to accomplish the things that they're trying to do in their lives. And I know a lot of the professional organizers that you work with, that's their goal in decluttering people and putting stuff away, is how do you make their life more simple and able to accomplish more. And I think it feels like a very big goal, but that is definitely something that we thought of in what we were doing.
I agree. And I think for anybody, it comes down to modeling good behavior. I had Rachel Cruz on our show a couple weeks ago. We were talking all about budgeting and setting financial, you know, being, financially responsible. And, you can only model good behavior and kids will see what you're doing. And listen, let's be honest. I'm an organizer and I can't say that my kids are organized 24/7 because that's just not the case. And everyone knows that. But they see certain things and they are retaining it. And if they see that you take 5 minutes to plan things out, or you sit down Sunday evening and do a meal plan or whatever, your thing is, they will start to think that that is what's norm. On the flip side, I see a lot of adults that struggle with disorganization and clutter, whether it's like mental clutter or physical clutter, and that they grew up in a house. And one of the first questions I always ask people is, tell me what your life was like growing up. Tell me what your home was like growing up. That's when I like to pretend like I'm a psychologist. But I think it's really helpful to see, like,
I thought this was actually a psychology session. It's
it
not.
is.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
totally is. Totally is. But
It's very, when I'm stressed, I clean a drawer out and I feel much better.
absolutely. And the same thing goes with checking something off a list,
Yes.
color coding to be able, I know for me, and I only have 2 kids and I have friends who have multiple kids. And a lot of our listeners have multiple kids. But I know even just as a mom of two, I could easily get overwhelmed looking at, you know, who was at what activity and who had what and what was happening and where did I need to be here. And even for me to just color code on my whiteboard, and it wasn't even a pretty whiteboard like yours, but just to even color code and say, okay, this breaks it down. It allows me to kind of chunk it. And I love the fact that you have, this whole marker system, and it even comes with this little marker caddy. So everything's like right there. And you can, it just these subtle things to help make the organizing process fun and also digestible. So I love that.
And I also think for the professional organizers out there, no matter what system you have to share, because there are a million different ways, right, to organize, this is completely customizable for what will work for the user. So I think that aspect of it is really important, is the flexibility of it. It needs to work for you. And listen, it's never 100% perfect. You're absolutely right about that. You can't always be 100% decluttered, 100% organized. But I always find our system at home that works the best is having less stuff. You have less stuff.
Oh, preach it, sister. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the story of my
that
life.
is key. Like going and buying more organizers for stuff and stuff and stuff is not really the
Well, I
answer.
think you bring up a really good point, and that is, and that's why the organizing industry in terms of products is just such a growing industry because everybody wants to be organized. And I always say there are products that will help you to make it a more enjoyable or more streamlined, but you still have to put in the work. Even with this, it's not a magic wand. It's not that you will automatically buy this incredible product and voila, your calendar is going to, flow smoothly. You still have to be intentional about using it so that it doesn't become clutter, and then B, looking at the areas where you're like, wow, I seem to be overloaded in this area. Like, do a little bit of an analysis of, where do you feel stressed? Why do you feel stressed? Are there certain things that are more triggers? Is meal planning stressing you out, or do you enjoy that? And maybe, looking at it, I try to like look at the little aspects of our lives that we have to do and say, okay, how is there a way for us to streamline this? So if you're like, oh, I put off meal planning because I just hate it, well, then maybe looking at um doing like a meal delivery service a couple of times a week to streamline your life, like using this information about where you white knuckle your way through versus, oh, I enjoyed this part of it, is really telling about the areas that we can be really productive and what parts maybe we just need to let go or just delegate altogether.
Well, this reminds me of before having our OneThrive at home to test and try, we had our family meetings, right? And we would all get together and kind of talk about that. We would talk about, okay, what what's working, what's not? Like, what do we want to do more of? What's some family time we can do together? How is meal planning? How do we eat healthier? How do we exercise together? Who's really good at what? So once we got a command center going, what I found that happened was I'm lucky that my husband is a great cook. He loves going grocery shopping, thank God, because that's not my
That is
thing.
rare. That's rare. I have a husband
I
that
am
does. I have a husband that does laundry. Like that's his thing.
all,
So
well, that's rare
you know,
too.
oh, absolutely. Oh my gosh, totally rare. So that's what I'm saying. Like, take those. You know, that's a gem. So
Yeah, it is a gem. All my girlfriends say it. So
I don't do any of that, but my wife hopefully would call me a gem also. So I
I'm
don't
sure
know.
you are,
That's
Brett. I'm
yeah.
sure you are. And if not, pick up some pointers right now.
Yes, yes, good point.
but what I find is when you show your kids what you're vulnerable in and that you're not perfect, and you give them permission not to be perfect, and then also give them the opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm really good at like cleaning this out, or I'm really good at sweeping, or I'm really good at setting the table. So, mommy, that's causing some stress, so I can do that. And she did that. She like would offer what to do. I mean, did we always stick to that? No, we didn't always stick to that. And I think that's just life, right? But if you have that visual reminder and you say, oh yeah, I promised I was going to do this and I'm kind of slacking, I better start doing something about it, it helps. And I also think all the quotes, like we're doing these custom decals right now, and we thought everybody was going just to put their name up on the top, like the Cavan family.
Hmm.
And they're all creating these beautiful quotes, like inspiring quotes. And especially during this time right now with COVID, we're just seeing beautiful things like, we got this, everything is good, you know, it's inspiring to see. It's like a message center, and it's also a place, it's a hub to kind of like state who you are as a family and how you work together and connect and make time. That's like my biggest passion behind the product and my messaging. And I think you were saying it too, Lori, is how do we make more time? I was actually just thinking about this year. I was putting Christmas stuff away. Last year, it took me a whole day to put the Christmas stuff away. So what I said, this is ridiculous. So we got rid of like 50% of it. And then this year, when my husband brought stuff down, I was like, you know what? Just take out these 2 boxes, and that's all we're going to use. And this year, to put it all away, I was done in an hour. I get no help on that part, by the way. Nobody wants. They want to decorate, but they don't want to put it away. Um, and then we were able to go to the park that afternoon. And I was thinking about all that time last year that I spent doing that. And it was just really like an aha moment again for me about having less stuff and managing it better.
I love it. I think it's really. I think that's it's a great testament, and I think a lot of people this year really kind of or the end of 2020 like really kind of pared down, and we're trying to just say, you know what, like I'm just drained. Even if I'm not leaving my house, like I am just mentally drained. So what is the easiest way for me to enjoy my life without adding more to my plate?
And feeling control in a time where there was no control. That is the biggest, I think, this past year gave people that are in this industry of organizing. There is a psychology behind it. And when I'm feeling bad, I do go and I clean something out. And I have taught my daughter to do that too. So she does that as well.
It's yeah, to me, it's like a guide, right? So it's just a basic thing. This is kind of the direction you want to go in. And then to add to that, one of the things that we're working on this year is we're going to do an expert series on our blog. So basically, we're going to have a financial expert is going to come in and show you how to use the OneThrive system. to help your financials. We're going to have a meal planning expert. We're going to have an exercise expert. So each person is going to come in and really help people. Like, if this is the way you want to use it, this is the best way to use it. Because like Mayra said, there's no perfection. This is just a tool and it's there. And if you use it correctly, it can help you. And if not, it's just going to look beautiful on your wall. But it's, it really needs, we need to teach people like, these are the best ways to use it.
On that note, Brett, let us know, where can people learn more? Where can they go? I know you said it's direct to consumer. Where's the best place for people to go to learn more about the options, buy it?
Sure. Our website is really the best place, 1Thrive.com, the number one and thrive.com. That's the best place to go. We have tons of information there. You can see all the different configurations. As you said, we have both vertical, we have horizontal. The vertical one also comes with over-the-door brackets, so you don't have to, in every case, put it in your wall. That's another option that we have. And then I know that we have a coupon code for 10% off all of your listeners. If they use the SB10 is the coupon code, and that's definitely the best place to go to learn more about it.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay, we're going to take one more quick break, and then when we come back, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. We had some technical difficulties, so it's just you. You are in the hot seat, Brett, for our
very excited for
questions. So sit tight. Okay, so we always like to end our episodes by asking our guests a little bit about them. One of the things is, you are obviously in a space where you're providing a resource to inspire other people, but what resource, whether it's a book or a podcast, has been transformational or inspiring to you that you want to share with our listeners?
Sure. One of the books that has really been inspirational to me is Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers. And really, to me, I like a lot of biographies, autobiographies, that type of stuff, really learning about people's lives and maybe picking one or two things from those stories that you can incorporate into your life. A lot of these people, it's so aspirational, the things that they've accomplished. And, one of the things in the books is you spend 10,000 hours on something, you get better. It's just all these little things that you learn that make you better as a person. And so, it's not, Outliers is really one of my favorites. There's a ton of different books that I read or podcasts that I listen to, that it's just people telling stories about their life and their struggles. And it's inspirational to know, like, hey, if you keep pushing forward, you really can accomplish a lot.
I love it. I agree. And again, we'll link up to that in our show notes as well, for anybody who hasn't already read Outliers and wants to check it out. And then our last two questions, which we ask every single guest, is, in this particular season of your life, where do you feel the most organized, and where do you feel like a little bit of a hot mess? And it could be at work, it could be at home, however you want to answer. So you can go for it.
Sure. So disorganized is pretty easy, because I'm moderately very disorganized. You said something earlier about mental clutter. Like, that's a lot of stuff going on here. I am a big part of what I do is sales, and so I'm a little all over the place. So this year, one of my goals is to bring that down, slow down a little bit, and get more organized. And so we do a lot of purchase orders, and I have a lot of orders out there. So I actually am using the 1Thrive system this year to keep track and try to put on there when the order is going to come in, use the calendar for that purpose. I actually may need one of the experts to come in and actually teach me how to use it, slow me down, but it's you can help me. Great.
Oh
Anybody.
my gosh, we could absolutely schedule some virtual coaching sessions. That's not
I love it. I love it. I need a lot of them. It's my desk is right over here. It's a mess. It takes me, I just have to sort of really train myself that's important. I think it's a hard thing for people who are going 100 miles an hour to realize, like, hey, it's okay to spend 20 minutes to sit down and really organize things so you can move your life forward and accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So it's a struggle for me, but I am trying.
I love it. Okay, and where are you thriving?
Where am I thriving? I would say, in 1Thrive for us has been so much fun. We launched our website last January, and really from day one, it has taken off, and it's just been awesome. And going through the sales process, meeting people like you, meeting all these people who are like, hey, I love this thing. This is really changing my life. And getting to talk to new people and learn about different industries that are out there. Is really what I do this for. This is what makes it fun. Being from the apparel background, which is not really a growing industry and a little flat and old school, to be able to go to something that is e-commerce and really just being able to talk to people is really what I think is positive out there for me.
No, I love it. And I love what you're doing. And again, I think for most people, the thought of, organizing does not conjure up fun and excitement. And the fact that there are fun tools out there to make a process that might not seem like super sexy or exciting more enjoyable, again, is makes it so much more palatable. I always tell people, a good pair of running sneakers isn't going to make you run a marathon, but it's going to make
Right.
your run a lot more enjoyable. And tools like 1Thrive and what you guys are putting out there, and the fact that just your product team is really being so intentional about who the user is and how they're going to use it, really is going to make our day-to-day lives so much easier. So that's my testimonial out there.
No, I would say one thing to add to what you said, which is great, is that, with the markers, we're getting a lot of the DIY community who are literally making it fun. These things that we're seeing, we have a Facebook group that has almost 1,000 people in it now, and it's growing every day. And the people are putting pictures up of the things that they're doing. We had no idea, and the colors and the artwork and the imagination that's out there around this is spectacular.
I love it. I love it. It's great. And again, we're going to have links in our show notes. There's a code for any listeners. So make sure that you use that at checkout. I think that's it. I think we've covered all that we need to
Right?
talk about today. Next thing that you guys want to do is head on over to 1thrive.com and check out their products and see which of their options is best for you. Brett, thank you so much. Please thank Mayra. I'm sorry that we
I
had some
will. She's
technical
sitting right here. So
difficulties at the end.
we're very appreciative, and we love you, Lori, and appreciate everything you
Oh,
do. So thank you so much.
oh my gosh. And if this is your first time tuning into our show, welcome to this Organized Life podcast. Make sure that you follow us on social media where it's simply Be Organized. Or if you're on Facebook, hop on over into our Facebook group called This Organized Life Podcast. You could post questions, comments, topic ideas. We want to hear from you. So until next week, I am Lori Palau. Peace out.